anything that would change your mind on this issue? And more, the answer is giving no, there's nothing that will change my mind. You may applaud the conviction there, right? Like they're firm in what they believe, but that unwillingness to even see evidence that might be contrary to what they believe it must be just dismissed categorically because it challenges assumptions. What that shows is a hardness of heart, a hardness in the position they hold. It is a hard heart that we see again and again and again as a problem in the scriptures. Why? Because when people are presented with Jesus to their face and his miraculous power to their face, they say, there is nothing that will convince me, Jesus, that you are God. I must find in what you've done, the trick that you're pulling off, the little loophole that even though it appears you're miraculous, it appears you're claiming divinity, there must be something that continues to allow me to deny you. That is what a hard heart does. It refuses to even entertain the possibility. And what is alarming, I think, in our passage today, when we think of hard hearts, especially in Jesus' ministry, we probably think of the disciples, the religious leaders, we think of the Pharisees. But here, for the first time in Mark, we see the disciples being called hard-hearted. Why? They've just seen 2 miracles back to back. They're astounded, they're confused, they don't understand. They are not even willing to open up the position that Jesus is who he is demonstrating he is. And where does that leave the disciples? In fear, in terror. We may applaud the disciples for being people of conviction, but they are in conviction of their own fear, their own terror, their own lostness in the middle of the sea. They should have courage because Jesus is right there with them, showing them exactly who he is. They should have no reason to fear, yet they are fearful. They do not understand. I encourage us here today as we look at Jesus, as we see him for who he is, let us not be hard-hearted. Let us not imagine that in our lives and in our difficulties, we just need to row the boat harder to get us through. Let us not imagine we need to just blow wind in the sails of our life, but really, truly understand who Jesus is, that he is our courage, that he is our hope, because he is the very one that is continually present with us always. Jesus, in this passage, we see him praying for us as people. We see him present in and over the chaos of the world. And as we see, he is powerful. He is indeed incredibly powerful to save in all ways. There's something powerful in this passage, and I love how Mark even just sets it up. Even the setting of how he begins this, he sets the stage, showing that after he had taken leave of them, he went up on the mountain to pray. And when evening came, the boat was out on the sea, and he was alone on the land. You see, he's showing where everybody is here. They are out on the boat. He is on the land. There's that separation there, a distance between Jesus and the disciples. As if the disciples are out there thinking we're alone and Jesus just abandoned us to go on this prayer retreat, right? Does this indeed describe how you often feel? That separation from God, that distance? As you try to live your faith amidst the struggle, as if God was up there on some sort of kingly divine mountain and you're in the sea with the wind in your face, you're pushing against it. That's what the disciples are doing. It says the wind is against them. They're trying to move against the wind and they're going nowhere. It says their way is painful. It's a continual struggle. It comes to mind as a famous prayer from the Breton fishermen. That is essentially, "Oh God, your sea is great, my boat is small." How small does your boat feel today? How strong does the wind and the sea feel? How great is it? How small do you feel? And where is God in that? It's God's wind, God see, but is he far away? Does he seem distant? That is how the disciples are feeling. It is almost like somewhere between 3 and 6 in the morning at this point. They have been struggling for a long time. They can't change the wind. They can't row any harder than they already are. If anything, they're losing strength in the midst of this terrifying and indifferent nature against them. No matter how hard you push, the wind is stronger. If it's against you, there's nothing you can do to change it. How hopeless does that feel? Just waiting for things to change that are not in your control. What are the things in your life that you wish you could change but aren't in your control? You can only work so hard in your job. You can only work so hard to change someone's mind. You can only work so hard in a relationship to reconcile where there is tension and pain. You seem to be working hard in all these areas, but maybe you're waiting on others to change their mind. You're waiting for entire systems to move and change around. What can you do when circumstances are so outside your control and you feel useless? This is a very similar episode in many ways to what we see in Mark chapter 4. That Jesus was at least in their boat during that time. The disciples are caught in a storm, and Jesus is at least in the boat, and he's asleep, and then he calms the storm, right? But here, they're struggling. Jesus is even in the boat. He's up on a mountain somewhere. But what is he doing up in that mountain? It says he's praying. It doesn't tell us what his prayers are, though. But I think we can only understand if we understand who Jesus is and we understand what Jesus' mission is. I think we can rightly understand he is interceding for his disciples. The men in the boat in the middle of the sea, he is praying for them by name. Every single one of the 12, bringing their desires, their desperation. He sees their painfulness out there in the sea. He's bringing that to God the Father. Though Jesus is with them, he is praying with them, and he is on their side. They're sitting in their plight in the middle of the sea in a world of chaos, that no matter how hard they row, they cannot move, they cannot change the wind. Who can save them from that chaos, that disorder that they cannot bring order out of the waters and the wind? Only the one who can walk over it, who can tread it so serenely. As our call to worship remarked, that who alone stretched the heavens and trampled the waves of the sea as if walking over it as a path. It's only Yahweh. Only the great I Am can do that. I want you to consider that for you today, that as the water is splashing you and the spray of the surf is blinding you, where is Jesus? You desire for him to be with you, to stop it all. Do you understand where is Jesus? As we said in the Apostles' Creed today, he is seated at the right hand of God the Father. That is the seat of the great high priest who is interceding for you on your behalf. He's bringing your prayers to God the Father. And God hears your prayers through the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, who came into the world, who came into this place to be present with us, to die for us. Where is Christ now? He is praying for you, interceding for you as he is for his disciples. But he doesn't just stay there up on the mountain in this passage. What he does and what he reveals as about himself is incredibly powerful, that he is present in and over our chaos. Jesus isn't stuck. He isn't imprisoned on this mountain in his prayer meeting with the Father. He comes to the disciples. He passes by them. He passes their way. He comes their way and enters the boat. And by doing that, he is demonstrating exactly who he is. Verse 48, it tells us that when they were making headway painfully, for the wind was against them, and about the 4th watch of the night, he came to them walking on the sea. He meant to pass by them, but when they saw him walking on the sea, they thought it was a ghost and cried out. For they all saw him and were terrified. But immediately he spoke to them and said, "Take heart, it is I." Powerful thing about this passage here, do not be afraid. The powerful thing here, as I said, is there's several things he's doing right there that just look at first like, oh, a miracle, he's walking on water, right? But there's very powerful biblical things biblical imagery he's doing, and words he's saying that are demonstrating what he is, who he is, and what he's come to do. He's walking on water, he's passing by them, and he's speaking to them about who he is. All these things are powerful. First, he's walking on water. As I mentioned in our call to worship, the picture of the one who walks over the waters is Yahweh alone. For the Old Testament mind especially, the water, the sea, was a symbol of chaos, of utter expansive terror. Again, if we think about like space and how endless it is and how lost we would be if we were just let out of a shuttle in the middle of space. How terrifying that would be. How little control you have over that. That's how the people thought about the ocean, about the sea. It is powerful. It is untamable. It is unpredictable. And yet in the beginning, in Genesis 1, verse 2, it says the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. That over the chaos and the disorder is Yahweh who brings order. Out of the unformed chaos of the world, it's still always and continually under the dominion, the rule of Yahweh. He tramples the seas, as Job 8 tells us. Job 9. And so by Jesus walking on the waters, he's doing something that only God can do. It's not him just doing something that's pretty impressive, walking on the sea. He's showing that he is Yahweh himself. And it says he passes by them. It's a passage that in all, study people are like, what does it mean he's passing by? Is he trying to like sneak by them? Like he meant to pass by and like go unnoticed because, they're really going to freak out and think it's a ghost. Oh man, they caught me. Like, I don't think that's quite what's happening. I think he fully intends for them to see. He passes by them, passes their way. He comes their way. He wants to be seen. Why else would he come to them walking on the sea unless he wants to be seen? Because he wants to come and visit with them. He wants to enter their boat. This idea of passing by them, again, was in our call to worship of he passes by me, I see him not. That there's this movement of God, of Yahweh, and the imperceptibility of how he moves and travels through the world. And again, that idea of God passing by, again, is taken up in Exodus 33 in our confession of sin. For Moses wanted to see the glory of God. But Yahweh says that you cannot see my glory without being consumed. You cannot see the fullness of my face. You can see a glimpse of my glory. You can see the back of my glory. I will pass by you. I will pass by you. That is what God was revealing to Moses in there. In just passing by him, showing him the glory and the power of the one who treads over the chaotic waters. That's what Jesus is doing. He's passing by them as the glory of God the Father did to Moses. So he passes by his disciples here, and then he speaks to them. He calls out to them because they are indeed terrified. They think they see a ghost. Literally, the Greek word is phantasm, right? Understandable, right? You see a figure in the darkness walking towards you on waves. That's impossible. They're terrified. So he calls out, have courage, it is I. There's a debate how much to make of what he says when he says, it is I. It could be just a typical Greek greeting, which is just ego, eimi, which could be translated, it is I, but what he says, ego, which means I, eimi, am. How much do we understand the theological weight he's putting there? He's saying, take heart, have courage, I am. Literally what he's saying. I mean, they could have heard it just as that Greek greeting, hey, yep, it's me. Or is there a deeper point as he says, ego, eimi, where elsewhere in the Gospels he says those words and is clearly stating, I am. Saying the meaning of what Yahweh's name means I am. Is he making that clear, definite statement of his divinity? He is the one who treads over the waters. He's the one who passes by them as Yahweh did to Moses, and he is saying to them, I am. So have courage. The reason for our courage, the reason for our hope is because of who Jesus is. He is the I am. He is Yahweh. He is the one powerful over your chaos and who walks over it. And then what does he do? He doesn't just demonstrate that he is more powerful than the chaos of the world. He gets in the boat. And the sea calms. He intercedes for them on the mountain and then enters their boat. He strides across the sea of chaos, revealing who he is and is present with him. That's who Jesus is. Not just simply the one who can intercede for you, not just simply the one who's powerful over all the chaos, but he enters into the world. And that is what Jesus did. In the whole ministry of becoming man, he is fully God and fully man, fully able to walk across the sea and fully able to enter into our lives. Jesus coming into the earth is so that we can know that he is present with us in the chaos. Undertaking their own chaos and disorder of our own sin. For sin seeks to rip apart the order that God has put into the world. Sin challenges and brings everything to disharmony and to disorder and continues to rent things that were once beautiful into chaos. Sin seeks to unmake. And Jesus came into the world to take on the chaos of your sin on the cross. What is more chaotic and imperceptible than an innocent man taking on the sins of his people, dying the death of a criminal? He came to be present with you and to take on in a real, tangible way your sin and your punishment. But it did not destroy him, for he is the one who tramples over chaos, tramples over sin, and brings salvation for you through that. If you feel that you are still in the midst of chaos and in battle with sin in your own life, or suffering under the sinful consequences of others in the world and feel like you cannot make sense of it, you cannot conquer it, you are fighting against the wind. But you have a Savior who has entered into the boat with you and is powerful over it. Look to him in faith, for he is not only present, he doesn't always just sympathize for you in prayer, but he is powerful. He is able to save you. He comes in and the wind ceases. No words this time. We don't see him rebuking the wind of a peace be still. He just simply by his presence calms the sea. He is God and he is with them. And he continues to reveal his power as they get on the land, and people are running from all over the villages, just trying to grasp onto the edge of his robe, just trying to hold on to a part of his clothing. People have likely heard the story of the woman from chapter 5 who grasped the edge of his cloak and was healed with the discharge of blood. Perhaps they've heard that told throughout the region, and they're trying to do the same thing. And as many as it touched it were made well, it says. Were made whole. They were saved. They were healed. That is the great power of the great I am. He hears your prayer. His Son, the Son of God, intercedes for you as your prayers groan with the Holy Spirit, reaching the ears of the Father. In the disorder of chaos of your life, he's come down to you. He has the power to calm the sea and to heal you and to make you whole. And yet, where are the disciples in all this? They did not understand about the loaves. Their hearts were hardened. They're still hung up on this whole bread loaf thing of feeding the 5,000. They still don't get it. That evidence that is shown to them still isn't connecting for them. So all these things we've just seen about how clearly Jesus is showing his power and his divinity, they aren't seeing who Jesus is because the heart is unwilling to even entertain that possibility. He is powerful to heal us from every affliction. And we need our hearts softened for that to happen. He must soften our hearts and give us a new heart first for us to truly understand his power. How tragic that can be. A hardened heart facing the truth of who Jesus is. Let us see his power that he can even soften us. For when that happens, if we truly understand all these things we've said, that he is powerful, then the ability To have courage, the ability to not fear, makes sense. We cannot just simply be told, do not fear, and we say, oh, I thought I was supposed to be afraid. Okay, I'm good now. That's not how courage works. Courage is found in the face of fear, understanding the fear, understanding the threat, and knowing who is with you. That's where your courage comes from. To know that you're not enough, but the one who is, I am, then I can go forward. Your courage is found in the great I am. Let him soften your heart from fear so that you can trust and have courage. And I think right now, where I think for many of us, where we find our fear continually, I had this thought, a second day or so this week of preparing this, of where we have most of our fear right now is literally just the news. Literally, it's news, it's information. It's just, hey, this is what's happening over there. This is what's happening here. It's information. But what we do with that information, that recording of events and how we interpret it, immediately brings fear, right? It feels like chaos. It feels like anxiety. And we can choose to lessen the feet of fear and just look away for a little bit, but we still look, we listen, we condemn. We do so in a way that looks to Jesus and doesn't look for ghosts and phantasms. We can try to tampen that down a little bit. I think the encouragement for us is, where are our eyes most during this? Matthew has a little bit of an extended part of this in Matthew's gospel. He records Peter walking out on the waves to meet Jesus, and he's able to for a little bit, as long as his eyes are on Christ. But as soon as his eyes fall down, he sinks in. I think there's a powerful lesson for us. Our courage in the face of fear comes from having our eyes on the great I am, for our hearts being softened to know who Jesus is, to know that God holds all these things. So I encourage us, we are not to, in the face of things that bring us fear, like the news, the challenge I thought this week, and I don't know how to actually live this out, and it's too bold of a challenge for me to live, but for every minute you spend reading the news, spend 2 in prayer. Spend 2 in prayer and in his word. For every minute you spend seeing what people are posting online, spend 2 minutes in conversation with another believer on the phone about it. What I mean is actually be processing it, right? The wind and the waves and the chaos of where they were, they didn't say, oh, we're not in the ocean anymore. Let's just forget the oceans, the Sea of Galilee's even there. No, they were still battling it. It was still there. But Jesus is saying, I am. Have courage. I am here. I am Yahweh. So we don't avoid what's happening. We don't bury our heads in the sand. We don't be naive. But when we hate what we see happening in places throughout our country, like Minneapolis, or how our country might be being viewed by the rest of the world, if we hate what's happening in other countries with tens of thousands being killed in Iran, if we hate these things and we feel fear, we need to also recognize that these events are happening as a direct product of hate and fear. These tragedies only occur because of fear and because of hatred. The very things that are causing your blood to boil and your heart to fear are products of hate and fear, the products of sin. So don't buy into the drug of continuing to fuel that. And I tell you guys that this extended thing is one of those things that I'm preaching to myself just as much. Because the world and everything we see, the message is be afraid. Lose heart. Lose your courage. Today is an evil day. Run in fear. That is the message you get every day, every minute. Jesus says, take heart, it is I. Look to the one who's actually over and above all the chaos we see, all the hate and fear. You're not God, but his Son is with you. His very Spirit is with you now, treading over the seas and giving you courage, the courage to look evil in the face and say, I'm not afraid. I am is with me. Jesus, who knew the frustration of the hypocrisy of the religious leaders around him, it's what killed him. He knew the horror of government leaders refusing to act responsibly and promote justice, and had an innocent man Jesus killed. He knew mockery. He knew all those things. He died for it to redeem us from the sins of the world, redeem us from our sin that we take part in, that we commit. And he rose again over all of that. We have courage because of who Jesus is. We have courage in the very one who's able to walk across the water to bring us safely to shore. So let our hearts not grow callous and hardened in fear. The fearful, hardened heart says, I need to find my way to shore. Jesus is over there. He's far away. He's not doing anything. I got to figure this out. I got to row harder. What we see in the Lord's table for us, and the reason why we come to this again and again, is because we need the reminder that we are not here to just simply row harder. We don't come to this table because of the good works we've done, how hard we've pushed, how well we've demonstrated God's love to other people. We are here only by Jesus' death for us.